How you doing? I'm Tom Peplinski. I'm one of the instructors here at Team O'Neill Rally School.
I'm Steve LaRosa. I'm also an instructor here at Team O'Neill Rally School. And we're going to do a little off-roading today and show you some of the differences between automatics and manuals, where an automatic can be better in some situations and a manual can be better in other situations, and the differences between the two and where one may have an advantage over the other.
So here in the automatic, one of the downfalls is actually going down hills. And the reason behind that is the gearing, we can put it in a low gear, but it doesn't necessarily keep us there. And plus we have the torque converter, which doesn't spool up right away. So we don't get that immediate holdback from the engine braking that we would in the manual. Yeah, so coming down this hill, we're going a lot quicker than we would be, with a lot less control than we would be in the manual. Alright, so that's one of the drawbacks of the automatics.
We're going to do the same loop the automatic just drove, and I know I'm about to go downhill, so I'm in first gear. I know the manual's going to hold me on this hill, even in the snow and ice, pretty well. As I start to creep over the edge, I'm actually adding a little throttle right now, getting a little heavier on the brake, and when I feel the wheels start to slide, I will come out of both, and it's just going to crawl its way down the hill. Manuals are really good at that. The engine braking alone is going to help you get down a hill.
Going through the flatter and the more technical, slow areas, the automatic is much easier to drive because we don't have to worry about the clutch all the time. Right? We only have two pedals, and I have 2 feet. It's a lot easier to work with. Right? We don't have to worry about stalling the motor, and I can kind of take my time a little bit more. It's a little easier to go at a much slower speed. You know, we can do 1-2 miles an hour pretty easily, which is very convenient in some situations. Whereas in the manual, as soon as you let out the clutch, you're already going 3-4 miles an hour, and sometimes that's just a little too fast for the situation.
It flattens out pretty well. I want to go back to first. Knowing how rough it is, I just want to get through this nice and smooth. So I'm back in the throttle, back on the brake, and I'm just creeping right along. And once again, snow and ice, you will want to limit your wheel spin. You don't want a lot of wheel spin at all. And this thing just chugs right up it.
So again, the hills are a little more difficult in the automatic because we can't really control the gearing that it's in. Right? We can put it in a higher gear, but it's a little more difficult to keep the wheel spin down.
In a manual, I'm going to shift up to go up. So I'm going to get it into second gear to get up this hill. Up here, it's not that steep of an uphill, but once again, I'm limiting wheel spin by shifting up into second and just letting the Jeep work. I'm pretty heavy on the brakes. This is a real rough uphill, and I'm just steady on the brakes and the throttle, and that just smooths it right out. It binds that suspension and driveline right up, and it lets you just creep up the hill.
All right, so what we found out, the automatic was a lot easier and smoother in the more slow speed technical driving. But when it came to the hills, it wasn't as good. It didn't hold us back going down the hills. And it wasn't as predictable going up the hills. It would shift in funny spaces. So the automatic was a lot smoother and a lot easier to drive at the lower speed stuff.
And in the manual, what we found out was going down the hills, we leave it in first gear and let the engine braking do all the work. Very predictable. You know what's going to happen. Going up hills, we shift up into second, limit the wheel spin, and it chugs right up. Even today in the snow and ice, we had very, very little wheel spin. Whereas the automatic isn't as predictable, whereas the manual is real predictable. It'll get you along and move you over rough stuff very smoothly and real predictable.
So if we're looking to buy an off-road vehicle, if you want nice and smooth ease of driving, maybe the automatic's going to be your choice. But if we want something a little more predictable, we want to be precise, being able to put it in whatever gear we want, we know what's going to happen, the manual is going to be the choice.